We are live again. It's Primetime Live Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're live across our social media channels. Damian Nelson and David Hero. What a lot more to talk about as it pertains to WrestleMania. We just got done watching WWE 24, looking back at Edge. An interesting comparison to make to that beautiful documentary on WWE Network. We also have been looking at the best of WrestleMania. Spirited discussion last time we were with you earlier today. We're going to look at the worst of WrestleMania and also Boneyard Firefly Funhouse. What are we going to expect to see? What will you expect to see tonight from part 2 of WrestleMania? Andrew Bedala is joining us from Minneapolis, Minnesota. We are live here in the PWR studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it is now time for the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Live Special WrestleMania Edition. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Live. It is an honor and a privilege to be back in your homes or in your hands again, live, as we bring you part 4 of our WrestleMania 36 pre-show. Too big to fit into one part. We're going to do it over the course of 4 parts. Here tonight, Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Octavius the Tiberius, the alleged backyard, one-time knockout, straight-edge, hardcore, Hall of Famer hero. How the heck are you here on a Sunday afternoon?
You know what? This is number 4 of the final 5 for the weekend.
Final 5 for the weekend. Actually, yeah, 6.
6.
You missed one there.
I'm usually off by 1.
You're usually off by a lot.
So since yesterday, this is now our 5th show. Good God.
Just trying to clean it up. 5 of our 6 total shows over the course of WrestleMania weekend. And it's so great. Feels so good to be back with you guys and live, bringing you 360-degree coverage of WrestleMania. And we're not alone. We're not doing it alone. Joining us live from Minneapolis, Minnesota is Andrew Baydala, who somehow or another finds time to not only change his little gimmick graphics back there, but his shirt and tie as well. What are you trying? Is this like a concert for you, like a musical event?
No, I'm just, got to keep it fresh.
You
Never wear the same suit twice on TV, right?
I feel bad for his wife because obviously he doesn't do laundry. To change your clothes 6 times in a weekend sounds like Cal.
You get more than one wear out of a shirt.
Well, I know,
yeah.
But I'm saying not Drew.
I do it for you guys and the people. I don't want people to see me in the same thing day after day after day.
What are you saying about Dave?
The people.
Well, Dave changes his undershirt. Don't let him lie to you. I know that for a fact. I see him in different undershirts. So.
Yeah. See, there you go. That's all that
You
matters.
refer to that as an undershirt?
It's a T-shirt.
It's his gimmick. I mean, I can't pull that off. But hey.
What are you, next, are we going to talk about animals?
Yeah, I can't pull off the T-shirt under under the suit. But hey,
it takes a certain
he wears
frame
it well.
to be able to get away with that.
Yeah, manly frame.
We are live all over our social media channels, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Again, continued tremendous viewership. We appreciate all of you tuning in and joining us and being live with us, because there's nothing more we want to do than to talk WrestleMania with you. And tonight, it is part 2 of WrestleMania. We want to hear your comments across those same said social media channels, and we will share them here on the broadcast live. We will interact with them with our words. We will interact with them on the screen as well. So continue keeping those comments coming through. I want to welcome those of you who are already joining us socially, including Charles Stephen III, Michael LaGrange, Charles on YouTube, Michael on Facebook, Shafiq Ali, who I think has joined us for just about every episode. Thank you for that on YouTube, and My Mind Over Your Matter on YouTube, along with Javier Alvarado on Facebook. So thank you for joining us here on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Live. And David, let's get right down to it. Before we get into what's going to happen tonight on WrestleMania 36 Part 2, let's talk about something else that was on the WWE Network earlier today. I don't know if it dropped today or last night, but we watched it today, and it was the WWE 24/7. The edition focused on the return of Edge to WWE, and some interesting morsels and tidbits came out of that, and an interesting comparison that we'll talk about in just a moment. But overall, a great documentary, a great look into the journey of Edge back to the Royal Rumble this past January in Houston. And Edge revealed some things in that broadcast that were not known at the time, in addition to the tremendous efforts put forth to keep his return at the Royal Rumble a secret. He spoke of how he actually got the idea of coming back to professional wrestling and whether or not he could do it. As you may or may not recall, Edge retired, I believe, the night after WrestleMania 27 in Atlanta due to a neck injury. He then would subsequently have 2 neck surgeries, and then would move on to a career in acting. And in his acting career, he would find a lot of physicality due to him being, well, a former professional wrestler and being able to perform those stunts and things in these movies very easily. It was then that Edge decided that, hey, if I can do this, maybe I can do that. But it was a phone call from a surprising person who we don't know exactly who it was, but we can definitely speculate as to where that person worked, about coming back to professional wrestling in mid-2019 that really got him thinking about whether or not he wanted to come back.
You forgot the spot where he took the bump on the bike ride with Sheamus. And that's when he realized that, hey, my body and my neck, especially his neck, wasn't sore from going ass over tea kettle on the mountain bike ride. And it's like, hey, well, if I could take that, maybe I can take something else. But you know what? Great for Edge, good for Edge. A guy that left was forced out by science and medicine.
Yeah. Wait, are those things real?
Of course they are.
Okay.
And he didn't go out the way he wanted to. I mean, yes, his last match, for all intents and purposes, was at WrestleMania, defeating Alberto Del Rio. But then the next night to go out and retire and walk away, and for 9 years, and he even said in the documentary he stopped watching, just because he couldn't anymore, because it's so much a part of his life. But great for Edge. He's got the big okay, and we're going to see him tonight with Randy Orton in a last man standing match, which, you talked about earlier, the parallels between another guy that came back.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about that.
Very similar.
Very, very similar. But the big reveal was that Edge had been contacted by, quote unquote, another wrestling company to come back and wrestle, and he was actually intrigued by the idea, everything leading up to that, but did what an honorable person would do
let's
and
be
said,
honest. It wasn't Impact. It wasn't TNA.
likely not.
It wasn't New Japan.
Likely not.
It wasn't Ring of Honor.
Likely not, because they would have mentioned all those companies.
So
Was it the Jacksonville Jaguars?
I think
They
so.
wrestle?
I think so.
They sure do.
Yeah.
Well, clearly it was probably AEW. That's speculative, but based on the way it was framed in the documentary, it's clear it was them. But Edge said, well, first, I'll entertain this offer, but first, the admirable thing to do, in my opinion, was he said, first, I need to talk to WWE.
Well, he
they
said
have made
Vince.
what...
He made it very clear. He said, Vince, we need to talk face to face. And that is huge. That just shows the respect Edge has for Vince McMahon and that company.
It also shows how
Absolutely.
smart of a businessman he is.
Well, and what he said specifically, because that's also important, is they have made me what I am. I have to go and give them the opportunity for me to have me return there.
Well, and also let's be fair and let's be honest. He doesn't want his wife to then get shipped over to Fox on the FS1 show.
Renee wanted that, Dave, because she came from that environment and
I
said she
understand.
wanted
Renee
to
got
do it.
paid.
I'm sure.
Renee got paid.
So that is a point, though. Beth Phoenix, who obviously works for WWE and is a commentator as part of the NXT broadcasts, and I had forgotten about Edge's return at SummerSlam last year, but when he speared Elias, and they showed and talked about that and how we got there and how we came out of that as well.
The best part of that was that his wife, Beth Phoenix, had no idea he was going to do it, and how heated she was in the back.
She had no idea he was going to spear.
Yes.
She knew he was going to be there. He had told her it was going to be a promo. And that, well, was probably
was a
sometimes
promo.
a little white lie doesn't hurt.
It was a
in
promotional
wrestling,
spear
unfortunately.
leading up to his return, is what it was.
But how about the news breaking that indeed he was offered this offer to come work for another wrestling company and subsequently turned it down? What would have been different had we had seen Edge make a debut on a competing network that used
okay.
to have Nitro?
I'm going to say AEW because I think that's what it was, and if I'm wrong, I apologize for being mistaken.
It's speculative, and that's fine.
Yeah. It's weird. I mean, much like when AJ Styles came over to WWE, we never thought that would be a good fit. Just like I don't know if Edge would have been a good fit at AEW, but I'm sure we would have gotten used to it. And you know what? It would have been very interesting to see, but I think at the same time, if Edge doesn't return to WWE, it's looked at that, well, their doctors wouldn't sign off on him, but AEW or Ring of Honor or New Japan's doctors would. So it's almost like for Edge, it's more of a credibility thing to go back to the company that said, no, our specialist says that you're done.
And that's a great point. Edge said the first thing WWE said was, we got to get you up to Pittsburgh. We got to get you in front of the doctor. Let's see if you're actually cleared. And the one thing that did pop into my head immediately was, would any other company had taken that step? And I can't say whether they would or would not have, but it is admirable that WWE did that first.
Well, it's huge liability. They don't want to have the guy that had the just completely messed up neck come back to wind up paralyzed.
Yeah, I think it was a C4 through his C7 that were jacked up. But Andrew, what if Edge had gone to AEW and TNT, as he has now revealed that, well, we'll speculate that it was them, but that's a safe speculation, has revealed that the offer did come.
Yeah, I think Edge is a smart businessman. I don't think Edge ever, I mean, I'm not going to speak for him. It's a thought. I don't think that Edge ever was going to jump over to AEW. I think Edge entertained the offer, brought it to Vince, and said, hey, listen, I have an opportunity if I get cleared to go wrestle there. And as soon as that happened, WWE was never going to let Edge walk out the door. Same thing with Daniel Bryan. If you remember, Daniel Bryan was done, done, and done. And then all of a sudden, Daniel Bryan was back, back, and back. Competition, especially legitimate competition, will help these things get done. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see some other people who are done, done, and done, maybe make a comeback shortly. But I mean, the documentary is fantastic. My favorite part was when he got the ring shipped up from Stamford and had a ring in his home.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful ring too. I mean, that ring is
It's a WWE ring.
Top notch. Yeah.
So, this begs the question. Obviously, we would see Edge then debut at the Royal Rumble. Great, of course, typical WWE programming. They told their story, their version of the story very tremendously.
But there's only one version of that story.
No, there isn't.
Of Edge's story?
There's a second version of every story. There's 3 versions to every story, 3 sides to every story. My side, your side, and the truth.
Which is my side, so I have 2 of the 3 sides?
No. Everything you see on the WWE Network is some form of revisionist history, especially when they cover controversial things. I mean, if it wasn't, then they would have said AEW, or they would have said whatever company it was.
Well, they would never say AEW,
Exactly.
especially now.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was great, though. I mean, I'm not knocking it at all. You know what you get with those programs. It's not Dark Side of the Ring, where they don't have that affiliation and can really dig into the parts of the story that we haven't been told and give a full perspective. But great story told nonetheless. But this really piqued my interest, this documentary, and midway through it, I said, wait a minute. This is almost very similar to the Shawn Michaels story when he came back in 2002 and ended up in a hardcore match at SummerSlam 2002 with Triple H. We've got Edge, who came back in the Royal Rumble. He's going into a last man standing match as his first real match back. Rumble doesn't really count. As his first real match back. And that's a risky start. Or is it a good cover? I don't know.
Well, if you look at it, when Shawn Michaels left, he never said goodbye. He just went away.
Mm-hmm.
Edge got to say goodbye, the emotional farewell and send-off. What's amazing is when Shawn Michaels came back, he went into a violent program immediately with his best friend, after Triple H.
After he turned on him, did Triple H.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
I was there for
look
that.
at it, Edge comes back and now is going into a violent program with one of his closest and best friends.
Mm-hmm.
So
Team rated RKO.
So both guys, both Shawn Michaels and both Edge, their first real match is going back in with someone they know will protect them to make sure that they can get through it and just check off everything to make sure everything's working right.
Well, let's go back and look at that return of Shawn Michaels in 2002. I remember it so vividly. And you're right, he didn't have his goodbye. He had been gone for 4.5 years at that point. Edge has been gone for 9. And Shawn came back, and into that match, we'll skip everything that happened before that, but into that match at SummerSlam with Triple H, if we were talking about best SummerSlam matches of all times, that's a contender. Even though it wasn't a wrestling match per se, that story told, the match, all the stuff Shawn did that he probably shouldn't have in that matchup, but of course was okay to do. I mean, then getting hit in the back, right in the small of the back with a sledgehammer by Triple H after the match ended. The story that was told, it was so fantastic and so tremendous, but it didn't stop there. It led to Shawn Michaels winning the World Championship at Survivor Series later in that year. Is the trajectory possibly the same for the Rated R Superstar coming out of WrestleMania 36 Part 2?
I guess it really depends as to who the champion's going to be on the Raw brand at that time. I can't see Edge working a match with a Brock Lesnar or a Drew McIntyre right now.
Well, let's keep in mind the Shawn Michaels title win happened in the Elimination Chamber match, which again could have been a bit more of cover still.
Right, but that's a year from now, isn't it? Elimination Chamber? We just had that last month.
No, I'm simply saying that Shawn Michaels didn't get thrust into a situation where he was with Triple H again or with someone familiar again or even in a one-on-one fashion. It was done under the cloud of an Elimination Chamber match.
You know, I think Edge is, well, I'm sure he would love another title run, but I think he's going to be content and happy being a part of the show. Being the champ is a completely different level of stress, mentally and physically on your body. And I think he wants to make sure he's up and running first before that's even in the conversation.
Andrew, the comparisons to Shawn Michaels' return in 2002 from his back injury to Edge's return here in 2020. Hey, the numbers still work.
Yeah, there you
2020, from a neck injury and to a last man standing match against Randy Orton.
Yeah, I think the parallels are very similar. I was there in 2002 for both the SummerSlam and the Survivor Series match.
Did you get the
match,
shirt?
Which I have the
was
Survivor Series shirt. Oh, no, I did not. No. But yeah, the parallels are very similar. Shawn didn't just dip his toe into matches either. He jumped straight in. I mean, he went to a no-holds-barred match to an Elimination Chamber match and won the world title. And like Dave said, it's a daunting task, and then dropped it the next month at Armageddon in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Edge might be on that same trajectory where he does find himself in a championship title picture very soon. And I think that when Shawn came back, Shawn, from everything that I've read and saw, was only going to have that match with Hunter, and then felt he was good enough to go and stayed around for, 7-8 years? So, I mean, Edge could be the same way. I hope he does stay around for more than just this Orton match. And I think if they're doing these documentaries and they're making a big deal out of all this stuff, I think you're going to see more Edge than you're not going to see more of Edge.
But doesn't everybody who comes back for that one match know they ain't coming back for that one match? Can we name a situation where somebody came back for that one match and it was that one match? It's hard to find.
Shawn Michaels.
When was that?
He came back for the match of Saudi, and he regretted it after that.
Yeah. Because Triple H blew out his, I believe it was shoulder. And he said, he said, I wish I would have never done this match because it could have been him that was hurt instead of Triple H. So
I think that's different.
Yeah, no,
You just asked the question.
I asked the question, and I also acknowledged it was hard to find, but I don't know if that's the one to find. You know, you talk about a Terry Funk or Ric Flair, all these people who have retired multiple times. Shawn Michaels retired twice.
Well, look at Christian. He hasn't been back yet.
Great point. Great point. There aren't many people who came back for that one match and kept it at that one match. Because as Edge said, and as many have said, once you get that feeling, there's no better feeling or feeling similar to that of a live crowd response. And you can act, you can do things on set, you can do whatever else it may be. But when you're in front of that live crowd and your music hits and you've got that energy and you feel the electricity, as someone says, you can't replicate that anywhere.
No, you can't. It's something like no other. And that is the reason why so many guys have a hard time staying away. And they wind up on the indies, or they re-sign with an AEW or a Ring of Honor or a New Japan or a Lucha Underground or a TNA for a short run because they miss the love and attention.
So one other thing was quietly acknowledged in that documentary, and that's when Vince McMahon and Edge were embracing after his Hall of Fame induction, and Vince said, way too soon.
But well-deserved.
Oh, I didn't catch that part.
Of course you didn't. You spin everything, so
I've said for a long time, Edge's Hall of Fame induction was way too soon.
He said way too early, but well-deserved. Meaning that he should have been wrestling for 5 or 10 more years before he goes into the Hall of Fame.
That's an assumption.
Yeah.
That's what we heard.
No. I heard what he said.
Oh, he said way too soon, but well deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took it as he had no choice. They had no choice but to put him in because they never thought he was coming back.
They
never thought he was coming back. I mean, what are you going to do? Let the guy sit at home for 3 years and then be like, oh, hey, remember Edge?
Yes, it means more. It does mean more.
Because they rushed to it because the Hall of Fame is a financial play, not an actual Hall of Fame.
So then how do you describe Shawn Michaels going in right after he had his last match?
He retired.
Same thing?
He walked out. He sailed off into the sunset after WrestleMania 26. That's very different.
So Edge was forced to retire and kind of did the same thing.
Shawn Michaels' career compared to Edge's career, there's no comparison.
I'm just saying. I just think that they had no other choice. I mean, I don't know how long you wait to induct Edge.
As long as they've waited to induct Demolition.
Not even close. The two are not even on the same stratosphere.
Demolition didn't have a Hall of Fame career?
No, they definitely did. We're talking about one of the greatest single superstars of all time.
20.
You guys would know more about that than I would. I don't know the backstory of that. Do they? No,
there's no the backstory doesn't matter. The optics is what matters. The forstory is what matters.
When you put Edge in that quick, you almost felt, God, is he dying? Because it was like, It's like the body wasn't even cold yet.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden
Right,
now
but
he's being
smelled
rushed
blood
into the Hall of Fame.
Right, but they smell blood in the water, and we all know this. You got to capitalize on that. And like Damien said, it's a financial play. So right then and there, Edge was still relevant. Everybody still knew who he was. The kids still knew who he was because he was still on national television and on pay-per-views. I think that was the time to do it. I think it was too soon in a career standpoint, but from a company and financial standpoint, the iron was hot and you got to strike.
Thus making it not real to me, damn it.
Yeah.
Edge has had a tremendous career. I've said this on this broadcast before. Edge is a Hall of Famer, absolutely. But the rush to induct him to capitalize on the emotion of his early retirement, I thought was wrong. And I think it diminished his Hall of Fame induction, to be honest with you. And that's in hindsight. And many people have seen it the same way in hindsight. Many people don't, and that's fine. But I saw it that way right away and said, this is... you've said something that's very controversial on this show many a time, David, and I'm not going to force you to say it again. You've said a lot of stuff that's very controversial.
Which one?
On this show in the past.
You can say it for me. I don't know what it is.
It was in reference to when Rey Mysterio won the World Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, yes.
And why that happened, and how it would have never happened if something else hadn't happened.
I honestly believe, and I'll say it because I've said it, I'm sure it's on tape, I don't know if Rey Mysterio wins the Rumble and wins WrestleMania if Eddie Guerrero is still alive today. Mm-hmm. I don't think so.
And as harsh as that may sound, that is truth and that is the business. So it's sort of to the point you're making, Drew, as well, is WWE, professional wrestling, is an emotional business. They live in emotions. So to capitalize on them is not a negative thing, but from a fan's perspective, you can look at it and say, does it feel right? And Edge's induction at that time did not feel right to me.
For me, and I think Edge, and I've known Edge for a long time, he's had an amazing career. For a guy that was just a tag team guy that came in with Gangrel and Christian as the Brood, to watch him develop, it's very similar to the path that Shawn Michaels took with the Rockers, Bret Hart took with the Hart Foundation. A great tag team wrestler, became a phenomenal singles guy. But for me, I felt like they rushed it almost as if, and I said this earlier, like there was something physically, mentally wrong with him. Like, what, is he dying soon? Let's rush to get him in. Because at the same time, there are others that have still been waiting. It took Ron Simmons a while to get into the Hall of Fame. JBL is now just going in, was supposed to go in, this past week.
Yeah.
He's had a hell of a Hall of Fame run.
But
there's a bunch
you
of
know
guys.
this. You know this as a promoter. They need a headliner. They need a mid-carder. They need a female. They need a gimmick. And, I mean, they do it every year. So, I mean, they probably maybe they couldn't get Randy Savage because it took Randy Savage to pass away for maybe him to go into the Hall of Fame. Maybe they couldn't get somebody they wanted, and they figured, hey, Edge is retired. He's still topical. Put him in.
So here's a question. What does that do to the credibility of the Hall of Fame for you?
That's my favorite night of the year, and I think that the WWE Hall of Fame is legitimate, but I can understand, I've heard I don't remember which superstar it is. It might be Ken Shamrock or somebody else saying the WWE Hall of Fame is not real and I could care less. So, I understand what they're saying.
Not just one. A couple people have said that who have been inducted.
But okay, I know there's no physical building. I get that. It's not Cooperstown. I think the WWE had plans to do it, and maybe they fell through, or maybe they will. Who knows? I don't know. But, to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, A, pays well, and B, I think it's an honor. So,
Do you get paid to get inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame, the Pro Bowling Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Is that a payday?
Well, they're not independent contractors, so
just a question.
I think not. I think you're right. I think they don't. No.
It's a business.
I don't know if it's true or not.
Uh-oh.
It could be speculation, rumor, innuendo.
That's where you say, people are saying, I'm hearing that.
But I may or may not have heard that when Stone Cold Steve Austin went into the Hall of Fame, when he walked off the stage, he took off his ring and handed it to somebody else, because I believe he went in the same year as Coco Beware.
Austin went in at WrestleMania 25. Yep.
Maybe not.
Hey, look, we've talked to a lot of Hall of Famers, and it means a lot to a lot of them. Yes. It means a tremendous amount because, and even though you might look at it similarly to what we've been talking about, realizing all those things, it still is a moment to be honored in your career. It still is a moment to have that stage, have that platform, and to be able to talk and really step back and take a look back at your own career. It's special, and it's all that there really is as far as large-scale wrestling Hall of Fames. There's still the Cauliflower Alley Club and other things like that, but it is special, but it is also very, very, very commercial.
How would you fix it then?
How would I fix it? I'd take it back into the small, intimate venues that it used to be in when it first launched. I would honor those who, business wise, have beefs with WWE or will have other beefs with WWE, and not have politics play any way, shape, or form role in who is and who is not inducted.
I think you first thing you have to do is rip up the list of all the guys that are on the concussion lawsuit. Because there's a whole bunch of guys that signed off on that because they didn't truly understand what they were signing up for.
Yeah.
And now they're being blackballed out of the Hall of Fame. Also, build a Hall of Fame somewhere.
Yeah.
Have it down in Orlando. Have it a
Yeah.
part of the whole NXT experience off of the PC.
Does that legitimize it?
Having a real building, a Hall of Fame? Absolutely.
Isn't that what Access is every year?
But that's
the big argument I hear from all the superstars or talent all the time is that there's no physical building, so it doesn't matter. And I agree with you, Damian. My favorite Hall of Fames were when they made the fans. It said dress code attire, and it was small. I remember the theaters. I remember the Madison Square Garden one for WrestleMania 20. It was more intimate. It was more controlled. I mean, there are times where I'm at the Hall of Fame and I'm just gutted by what people are chanting and doing. It's insane.
I was talking with Nash about it
Kevin?
this last week. Of course, he was supposed to go with the NWO. And he understands what the Hall of Fame is. But for him, he said to be on that stage with his best friends and celebrate what they've done and just get that ring and appreciation and the nod to the crowd and see all their friends and family and whatnot. That's what the Hall of Fame truly means. It's an honor to be recognized by the biggest wrestling company in the world that you mean something.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, that's what it is. And there are some people that may never get in there. Demolition may never get in because their names are on the concussion lawsuit. King Kong Bundy's name was on the concussion lawsuit. Those three guys, say what you want about them, definitely deserve to be in there.
Well, let's break that down legally, how that makes a difference. It's not just politics at that point. It's if you are being sued by somebody, and then that somebody who's being sued by that somebody honors that somebody, you're admitting your guilt right there.
Yeah.
So legally, there's some provisions, obviously. So it's not just all WWE saying they sued us, they can't go in. Legally, they expose themselves, and the person who's suing them expose themselves to a judgment against themselves by participating. So it's tricky.
Yeah, and it's funny because Chris Jericho went on a Tampa Bay news radio station, or maybe he had an article written up about him saying how once he went to AEW, and if he works for the Khan family the rest of his career, he doubts he goes into the WWE Hall of Fame. So there are some politics that go into this.
A lot, but Bret Hart went in. They brought Sable back. Isn't it the end all be all, right?
They brought Bruno back.
Yeah.
They mended the fence with the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, anything is possible in wrestling.
Yeah. Just give it a couple years and the Band-Aids are peeled off.
There is no way Chris Jericho does not wind up in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Oh, I agree with you. But like you touched on that Bruno Sammartino thing, there are a lot of things that had to happen from what Innuendo will tell you to make Bruno go in. Like the venue, and he needed to be the headliner.
Well, I think, and maybe those things are true, but I think it was more so the fact that it was Triple H who reached out to him and had the conversations with him, as opposed to Vince McMahon, who he had tremendous amount of heat with. And this was not WWE not wanting Bruno in. This was Bruno not wanting in. So it was the massaging, I think you can say, of one Triple H, new face of the company, if you will, honoring and respecting. And not that bad blood, whatever does exist between Vince and Vince Sr. and Bruno from back in the days and all that. And I think it worked out perfectly that indeed it was Madison Square Garden and indeed it was in, Bruno's home, if you will. But you're right, a lot did go into that, but I really think it was more so the time was right. And, there was no better time for anyone than the Ultimate Warrior, right?
Oh, boy, could they have picked a better time for him.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
So we got off on that. One last thing about the Hall. I've never been to a physical Hall of Fame. What makes it better to have a physical Hall of Fame? What gives the WWE legitimacy for their Hall of Fame if it's physical versus virtual as it is now?
Well, like for me, the closest they have right now for WWE is Access. And just to be there and see, oh, those were the boots Andre the Giant wore.
It's awesome.
Oh, that was the dress that sensational Queen Sherry, wore at WrestleMania. Just little things like that to just witness the history and maybe touch it and just feel it. That's what they need. I mean, the NFL has one, Major League Baseball has one, the NBA. It's just cool for the historical aspects of it. And WWE does that better than anybody.
They really do.
Because I've talked to the people that do it. I've worked with them. I've sent them stuff. And the way they handle it and the way they present it has always been top-notch.
All right, we'll close out the Hall of Fame conversation there, and let's
How did we get to the Hall of Fame? It's because of Edge, right?
Yes, in his early induction.
Gotcha.
Check. Your final thoughts on the WWE 24 presentation for Edge?
It was awesome. I mean, the fact that, once again, there are certain wrestling fans that never saw Edge wrestle. Now they got reintroduced to him.
That's saying something, isn't it?
Yeah. Now he's been reintroduced again to a whole new set of fans. But for me, the funniest part was when Beth Phoenix was all heated that he gave that spear to Elias, and he knew he was done. She's like, "I'll be mad after the cameras get turned off." That's when I feared for his life.
Before we get into looking at some of the worst matches of WrestleMania and also previewing, if you will, what we expect to see in the matchup between Bray Wyatt and John Cena tonight, we want to thank all of you for watching us live and tuning in and joining us. The conversation is very active. Reference the Hall of Fame on YouTube right now and on Twitter and on Facebook. And we also want to get to a quick few news bites, if you will, and want to wish we got some birthdays to wish, David Hero.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, 2 big birthdays being celebrated today, one of which is going to be performing tonight at WrestleMania 36 Part 2, the endorsed Charlotte Flair.
Charlotte Flair.
It's going to be going up against Rhea Ripley for the NXT Championship.
That
Charlotte
match,
Flair
I think,
celebrating her birthday.
that might be the match that steals the show.
You said earlier that Rhea Ripley had a lot to prove in this match.
Absolutely.
Charlotte's birthday. I mean,
It is. But it's not. It wasn't her birthday when this was recorded, so I'm sure they didn't take it into consideration.
And congratulations go out to 2 AEW stars who got engaged today, as we saw on social media. Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian, now
Oh, that was
engaged to be
quick.
married. Was it?
Yeah, wasn't she with Joy Janela? No?
I don't know.
Yes. Well, she was.
Congratulations on their engagement.
What?
Not a Janela fan, huh?
Well, keep in mind, Damien's been in China for a while, okay?
Oh,
And they don't have the subtitles over there for AEW, so he had no idea who anybody was.
gotcha.
Well, you're trying to put the heat on me for that. How big is Joey Janela? What's his weight class?
I have no idea. I've only seen him sitting down.
That's a very good point.
WrestleMania 36 Part 2 is tonight. Firefly Funhouse Match. We talked about it a little bit on the earlier episode of PWR Primetime Live, Part 3, earlier today here live. But now we've got a really fair comparison to make, and that is the cinematic glory that we
There's
saw
that word
last
again.
night
Stop it.
during the Boneyard Match compared to what we're going to see tonight in the matchup between John Cena and Bray Wyatt. I am looking forward with deep intrigue to what they are going to present tonight. I think it's going to be the same, but I think it's going to be very different. And I'm intrigued by how it's going to be both, because John Cena's got a lot of Hollywood experience. He's been in movies. He's on a lot of commercials right now. You've got the expertise of WWE. You've got the uniqueness of the talent and the qualities of Bray Wyatt. Mm-hmm. The storm is quite perfect for what they're going to deliver tonight at WrestleMania.
For as much as last night was like the Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger type cinematic wrestling match, I think tonight's going to be more like the movie Kick-Ass. If you ever see that one?
I didn't.
Where it's a very violent superhero, blood and guts kind of themed. I'm expecting mallets and traps and all that kind of stuff.
Whack-a-mole?
Yes, it's a whack-a-mole kind of match tonight.
Huh. Andrew, what do you think we're going to see? What opportunity exists? Is this the perfect storm of talents and company to come together to put together something quite brilliant?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's an opportunity to separate themselves and be completely unique. Like Dave said, I think the Boneyard match is going to be the Boneyard match, and I think this will have its own uniqueness and its own feel. I'm looking forward to it. I really hope they play on this whole like carnival Firefly Funhouse gimmick that they've been running, and I think you'll see all members of the Firefly Funhouse in this match, just like they did on SmackDown. That presentation to end the show was fantastic, and I hope we get to see more of those illusions and carnival gimmicks in this match. You
think they'll have a cotton candy machine? Can you imagine that? He takes it and put John Cena's head in there, and
now you're trying to kill a man.
And Cena's head comes out, and it's all wrapped up with pink cotton candy.
There's moving parts in there. I don't think. Have you ever looked into one of those?
Of course not.
Poor Dave. He probably hasn't eaten. He's just hungry.
Exactly.
You need a Butterfinger, is what you need.
No.
Snickers.
That always satisfies.
All right, so earlier today we had a spirited discussion about the best matches in WrestleMania history. We know where you stand, David. Your best match in WrestleMania history is Hogan Rock at WrestleMania 18. Andrew, you stand in a very different place a few years earlier at WrestleMania 13, where you think Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart had the best match in WrestleMania history. Well, let's put that argument to bed and go to a new question, which is, what is, on the opposite side of the spectrum, the worst match in WrestleMania history? And I think there are many contenders, but I don't know if there's an obvious one, because we so easily forget about those painful parts of WrestleMania's past. But there are a lot of doozies and a lot of real stinkers out there that happened on the greatest show of them all. And we want to hear your comments as well, watching us live on our social media channels, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Comment and tell us what you think the worst match in Mania history is. And we'll share your comments on air as this show continues. We'll start with you, Andrew. Worst matches in WrestleMania history. Let's start breaking them down. Where do you start?
Well, the one I'm going to start with is the first WrestleMania I was at, and it was Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 20, because that was just bad.
Now, wait,
bad.
Let's quantify. So we said when we were talking about best that it was our opinion of what was the best. This, again, will need to be the opinion of why we think it was worst, but the important piece that needs to be covered is why. Why was it the worst? And generally speaking, we've been trying to talk about bell to bell, not before, not after, bell to bell. What we saw in that show, not necessarily what happened before or after that show. And I'm very interested to hear your why about Lesnar and Goldberg at WrestleMania 20, where it all began again.
Well, Stone Cold Steve Austin was put in there to take the heat off both of these guys because they were both leaving, and you could tell that the crowd was really only invested in Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, they wanted both of these guys out of the ring so bad. The crowd was white hot and could care less about it, and you could tell that these two performers at that given time could really care less about the outcome and how this match was going to go down. And it was intriguing to me who, I guess, WWE saw that they could still make money off of and who was going to win, but the match was just awful. I mean, just awful.
Bell to bell, you say it was awful.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there with a couple other matches that I have on this list.
But
it was pretty
everything you
bad.
just quantified it with was not about what happened bell to bell.
Oh, I mean,
it was
the
about the
wrestling match.
Circumstances surrounding the match.
Well, the wrestling match was god awful too. I mean, you want to talk bell to bell? As soon as that bell, as soon as that bell rang, and after that bell rang, I was so happy that match was over. So happy that match was over.
I think that the crowd also played a big factor in how that match is perceived. When they're booing the entire time, it's like you're almost trying to think, well, is it that bad? It must be that bad. If you got 20,000 people saying, you suck or whatever, you almost have to believe it.
Their rematches were way better. Way better.
Well, everyone was way more invested. Goldberg comes back as an iconic, hero, to save the day. Lesnar is completely reinvested and completely motivated. Yeah, completely different scenario. You couldn't be more on opposite ends as WrestleMania 20 to the next time those two would ever meet.
But didn't they have to have this match? And didn't they have to have this match at WrestleMania?
Absolutely. I was excited when they announced it. I was excited.
You were there, right?
I was there,
Me
and
too.
for me to see Goldberg, who at the time was the biggest badass this side of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then you got Brock Lesnar, who was like, good God, I mean, who can beat him? It was like the biggest heavyweight fight we've ever seen before. It was almost on the same. On paper, it's almost as big as Hogan Andre.
Yeah.
Because it was just two monsters. And boy, it was a complete letdown just because everyone knew what was going to happen. If the fans wouldn't have known those two guys were leaving, I don't know if we would be saying it's one of the worst WrestleMania matches of all time.
Yeah, it was the closest we were going to get to Goldberg and Austin, too, at the time. So that's why I was like, okay, I'm invested in this. And then the bell rang, and then the bell rang.
All right. David, what's your first qualifier for worst
There's a bunch
match
of
in
them.
Mania history?
And Andrew, please don't take this personally. Okay?
Oh, here we go. I understand.
You
what's
can
about
cut.
to
You can
happen.
cut me now. We can
No,
be
no,
good.
no, no, no. Bret the Hitman Hart and Vince McMahon has to be one of the top 3 worst matches in the history of WrestleMania. I would rather watch King Kong Bundy and Skylo Low and Lord Littlebrook against Hillbilly Jim, against the Haiti Kid and Little Beaver. Okay? 100 times over the Bret Hart Vince McMahon. That was bad business. From bell to bell, bad business.
No argument here. I'm a Bret Hart enthusiast, but no argument here.
Okay, 2 solid. I'm still struggling with Goldberg Brock.
Well, that's not on my list.
Of course. My next one might save it if you're stumped.
Well, let's go to your next one, and while you're talking about your next one, we'll see what the fans are saying out in the social media lounge, if you will, about what their options are.
I'm going to go to the next year, WrestleMania 21 with Big Show versus Akibono. What in God's name was that?
That's a good one.
What in God's name was that?
But on those kind of gimmick matches, do you really have expectations?
We didn't need it at all.
I don't know why they did it. I really have no clue. It didn't do Big Show any favors at all. But
that was at 21, right?
Yeah.
In Los Angeles. Yeah. Who even remembers?
Drew. I didn't. I forgot about that match.
They took the ropes down and everything, didn't they?
Yeah.
And Big Show was in one of those whatever gis. Is that what they call them? I don't even know what they call them.
He was in the Rikishi gimmick. Yeah.
Did Butterbean have a WrestleMania match? Not Brawl for All, but match.
No.
We had a boxing match against Brawl for or
that was
Bart
bad
Gunn.
too. But
again, he did have a boxing match, right?
Yeah.
But I mean that wasn't bad. Bart Gunn got knocked out cold.
Oh, but that was Brawl for All. I thought he had something outside of Brawl for All.
No. For me, match 2 has got to be Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole.
Just popped up on the screen there.
Just bad business. Bad business. No reason for it. Jerry Lawler, his very first WrestleMania match, he's put into a match with Michael Cole, and Michael Cole beats one of the all-time greats in professional wrestling.
How did he beat him? Who else was involved? What else happened in that matchup? You're forgetting that The Miz and I believe The Rock were involved in that match.
I don't remember that.
Were they not, Andrew? There were other people involved in that match.
Austin was involved in that match. I don't believe The Rock was, but there was a lot of shenanigans in that match. A lot.
But Jerry the King Lawler deserved better than that.
At that time? At that point?
Even today, he would deserve better than that.
Why? Because it was against Michael Cole, or because of, again, bell to bell? Because you're talking about outside of bell to bell.
Everyone says, oh, Sting, he deserves to go to WrestleMania because of his legacy and his career. Jerry Lawler's had a hell of a run, too.
Not as publicly as Sting did, though.
Completely different times.
You're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And let's be honest, Jerry Lawler had his own territory. He didn't have to go to WCW.
He didn't.
Jerry Lawler and Bret the Hitman Hart could have had a WrestleMania Classic.
Absolutely. Jerry would have carried him.
At that time in his career, WrestleMania 27, Jerry could have carried a match.
It depends who he's working with. I was kidding. I was being sarcastic.
But it sounds like you're saying
he worked a match with The Miz.
Not at WrestleMania. Good match. Not at WrestleMania.
No, I know.
Bell to bell, you're right. This match was a bit painful. There's no doubt about it. But the story that was told bell to bell, I thought was good. I enjoyed it.
Well, yeah, because you love Michael Cole. That's your guy.
I have a lot of respect for Michael Cole.
But there's that word again.
That's worst. Okay, so we got 3 worsts so far. Drew says Brock and Goldberg at 20. You say Akibono and Big Show, which is valid. And now you also say Cole versus Lawler at WrestleMania 27 in Atlanta.
Absolutely.
How about The Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez?
Absolutely.
At WrestleMania 9.
Absolutely
Richard
top
Warlock.
5 worst. Absolutely top 5 worst. Yes.
Yeah.
And now there's another one. I'll let Drew go next, but there's another one that people will be surprised by the worst match of WrestleMania.
That'll be good.
I'm going to go. My next one on my list is Kane versus the Great Khali at WrestleMania 23. Brutal.
Kane and the Great Khali at 23. I don't even remember. I was at 23. I don't remember that one.
Because you probably went to the bathroom or something.
I took a nap.
You know what? To be fair, this guy falls asleep during a lot of stuff. You do. When you're unenthused, you're out.
Well, he's got to
Rick
carry
Seven
the whole
napkins to do
show.
the day.
He
so
does. He
it
carries the
makes sense.
entire show. There's no question. So now listen, I've always said,
Wait,
Bell-
how about Big Show Gonzalez? You agree or disagree?
oh, Big Show Gonzalez?
Or I'm sorry, Kane Gonzalez.
Kane
Oh,
Khali.
terrible.
Kane Khali.
Kane Khali. I'm sorry.
See, that's how bad it is. Okay. This match, there are some things that I loved, absolutely goosebumped, loved, but it wasn't. It was like the garnish on the plate. Sting and Triple H might be one of the worst WrestleMania matches of all time.
Sting Triple H.
Yeah.
One of the worst WrestleMania matches of all time.
It was great build.
Do tell.
It was great build. You had the NWO come down. You had DX get involved. But in between, when they were just in the ring, nothing seemed to be clicking. It was 10 years too late. It truly was. And they tried to get as much out of that match as they possibly could. And you know they couldn't. That's why NWO ran down, who was basically Sting's biggest enemy in WCW, except for the few months he was part of the Red and White.
In the later WCW.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then DX came down. And it just like, whew, everyone had such high expectations for Sting. And at one point, Sting definitely top 5 of all time in a certain era, not overall. It was just bad. It just showed how time had passed Sting by at that point.
He went on to main event against Seth Rollins. No.
For a guy that says the Hall of Fame is about a cash grab and money, that's exactly what that was.
Well,
Okay.
let's not forget Seth Rollins suffered Sting. Did Seth Rollins get injured in that match?
No,
did.
Seth screwed up Sting.
Yeah.
There is no reason why Sting should have been put in that match.
Except
The match was tough to watch. It was. I was looking forward to it. I was there. It was tough to watch.
it's Sting's WrestleMania moment, which he had never had.
You
Do you
knew-
fault him for trying to go there?
You knew it was downhill for Sting when Triple H came out to the Terminator gimmick being introduced by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then you had Sting come out to bongos.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, right?
I
Am
think
wrong?
Sting has had some of the worst luck in professional wrestling, though. I mean, he should have came to WWE 9 years ago. He gets his WrestleMania match against Triple H, and he was supposed to. The rumor and innuendo was him against Taker at 32, and that never happened at all either. So I just think Sting has terrible timing or bad luck.
Well, Sting had a great deal with TNA. He was making a lot of money to work, 12 dates a year? Whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I fault him for that. I do agree that his time had come and gone at that point, and the match everyone had always wanted to see never did happen. It's almost like Hogan and Flair in WWF in '92.
No, it's also like Hogan and Austin. That match would have been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the match people wanted to see. I think more than Hogan and Rock. But because of timing and egos involved, it never happened. We'll never get that match unless you play it on the video game deal. But
It's funny you
Undertaker and-
mention that, too,
Undertaker
because
and Sting
these
would have been
two...
great.
Yeah, this match, the Hogan and Rock match, there was a lot of Hogan and Austin build going into that, which was strange. They didn't really focus on Hogan and Rock besides that one meeting that they had. They had a tag match, but they kind of toyed with the idea of Austin and Hogan a lot during this before they got
Austin
to
would
Mania.
end up taking on Scott Hall at that WrestleMania.
But Austin has admitted on his own shows that mentally he wasn't ready to play ball at that time with Hulk Hogan.
Makes sense.
So, yeah.
Worst of all time.
I didn't say it's the worst.
One of the
worst is Bret Hart and Vince McMahon.
26.
I
in
got one
Phoenix.
that's worse than that.
Oh, please share.
Big Show, Kane, Kofi versus the Core at WrestleMania 27.
Was that a pre-show? I have no recollection of that whatsoever.
I think the match was like 1 minute and 45 seconds bell to bell. And there's another one that people give a lot of praise to that I can't stand is Doink versus Crush at WrestleMania 9.
That was fun. Wasn't it the one where you had the multiple doinks?
Yeah, but I mean, bell to bell, it was awful.
And he took the arm off, right?
I don't remember.
Yes, you're right. You are 100% right.
Huh.
I'm still stuck on Bret and Vince.
It was bad. You're right. It was bad. It was really, really bad.
So what about, let's go more recent. What about WrestleMania 34 when Braun Strowman had a 10-year-old tag team partner and won the tag championships?
Oh God, we got up. I got up and went to the bathroom.
Who did he beat for the tag titles at that match?
You really want to know?
Yeah.
Sheamus and Cesaro.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Oof. I feel bad for those guys, and they haven't been the same since if you really think about it.
So I barely know when
together
Cesaro,
anymore. So,
Exactly.
I barely know when Cesaro's on television. It's terrible.
Well,
He's one guy that could benefit to go to
Cesaro had a
AEW.
WrestleMania match yesterday.
And what I'm saying is that he did. Was it the pre-show?
yes.
Was it?
It was a part of WrestleMania.
Yeah, no.
Details.
He's a fantastic talent, but I think he's very underutilized in WWE right now.
So how should they use him?
He could be a machine. I mean, the guy's probably the strongest guy in the locker room.
But how can they use him?
Main event superstar. All they got to do is have him feud with either Sammy or Daniel Bryan right now. Have them put him over and
Well, he's with
off to the
Sammy.
races. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Break him up. And you want to have an opponent for Braun Strowman? I bet you Cesaro could pick up Braun Strowman with ease.
I'm a big fan of Cesaro. He is a tremendous talent. Unfortunately, he has a place on the card, and he is in that place in WWE. And that's not a knock on his talent. That's not a knock on
He's
anything
been there
about
for a
him.
long time.
He's
Also,
been there longer than I would have thought he'd be there, to be honest with you, after coming from Ring of Honor. I think what you were alluding to, Drew, or may have said actually, is that he may be better off in another company and they might use him better. Well, yes, I agree, perhaps, but there's only so many top spots. And there's only so many top guys. And I'm not saying Cesaro is or is not a top guy, but you have to look at what makes that total package, which you've told us many times, David, here, what makes that total package, and are all the boxes checked with whoever you're talking about. And that's what you have to evaluate.
it is, because at the end of the day, it's about selling tickets and selling merchandise. Now, Cesaro doesn't have a whole lot of merchandise, but
He's got great merchandise,
He does
actually.
have some, but you don't see it all over the building.
But you know what? If the machine got behind him, you could see him all over the
I
building.
mean, they could make him better than you. You know, that whole gimmick. I'm better than you. I'm stronger than you.
Dave.
I think he's
But what
talking
I'm
to
saying,
you.
Oh, he's not better than me.
they could really build
Much stronger.
with his persona. He could be a silent assassin who has a mouthpiece, and they could do a lot with him. They really could. They really, really could.
As we continue to talk live here on Primetime Live, special edition going into WrestleMania 36, which starts, the pre-show starts in just over 1 hour's time. Damian Nelson, this is David Hero. We're joined by Andrew Bedala in Minneapolis. We're talking about the worst matches in WrestleMania history. And another one comes to mind that we joke about a lot, and we've actually joked about with one of the people who played a role in it, and that is the matchup between the Big Boss Man and The Undertaker at WrestleMania 15, which was the
Hell in a Cell.
Who Let the Dogs Into the Kennel match.
No, that was not the
No.
Kennel from Hell match.
It
That
wasn't
was
one of the
Al
Kennel from
Snow
Hell
and-
match.
and Big Boss Man.
No,
That
this is
wasn't at
this is the
WrestleMania.
one. Yeah,
Well, that's
this is
not
the one
the
where
one I'm
the
talking
brute.
about. The one I'm talking about is at WrestleMania, The Undertaker versus Big Boss Man, when Big
Right.
Boss Man got hung.
Yeah, but there were no dogs in that match.
There should have been.
No, I'm pretty sure there weren't.
You want to have a match at Joe Exotic's zoo,
Absolutely.
but this match can't have dogs.
Because it didn't have dogs.
I said it should have. You said no, it shouldn't have.
Oh, you said it had dogs.
I said it should have. You said no, it shouldn't have.
I say have it with tigers and let Carol Baskin be the referee, and she'd get tombstoned. She'd take a last.
What do you
round.
have against Carol Baskin?
Oh, she killed her husband.
That's your opinion and mine.
She told you how she killed her husband too.
Exactly. With
She
sardine,
said how she would.
with sardine
Look,
oil.
I'd rather not fight a suit. I'd rather not fight a suit. She's very, very suit happy. So let's.
My opinion, not factual evidence.
Yes. Just don't go making no videos of your own with a gun on your holster and a leg brace.
No, yeah.
Undertaker Boss Man, WrestleMania 15. Boss Man left hanging from the cell.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that the brood coming down from the ceiling was strange, and then the whole hanging was strange.
I doubt that's in my top 10 worst matches of all.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
Of course I do.
Did you like it?
Didn't-
Would you watch it again?
Sure, if you wanted to watch it, I'll watch it again. I'm not going to watch Bret Hart, though, and Vince McMahon again.
Let's see what's out there, what other people are saying. We've got Martin Duffin saying King and Michael Cole. We've got a lot of comments here on our socials right now about, what we're asking, which is the worst match in WrestleMania history. And in the meantime, and in between time, David Hero, I do believe there's a promo code you want to push.
Yes, go to collarandelbowbrand.com. Get some new collar and elbow swag. Use promo code PWR360 and get an additional 10% off. There's a big sale going on this weekend through WrestleMania. Already 20% off. Use promo code PWR360. Get an extra 10% off your entire order.
The whole thing?
The whole thing.
The entire order?
Yes. Get your Tiger King shirts. You can get your...
What's your obsession with Joe Exotic?
There's no obsession.
You mention him every broadcast.
Because it's just... If anyone has spent any time in independent wrestling... Like, when I watch, I'm like, how was he never in wrestling? And then I found out he was.
But he was.
And that was the amazing thing about it. And then I looked at some of the matches.
It takes a certain kind, huh?
And then
so what are you saying about yourself?
I'm Dave Exotic. A completely different kind of animals, though. Okay?
Careful, Dave. Careful, Dave.
Who's your Carol Baskin?
I have a few of those, trust me.
Oh, my Lanta. Folks, WrestleMania 36 Part 2 is tonight. Last night, WWE also released another special, and that was looking at Drew McIntyre's journey to WrestleMania, covering the current situation in the world and how he feels, quite honestly, about the changes that had to be made to WrestleMania. Tonight, Drew McIntyre goes one-on-one with Brock Lesnar. The championship is on the line. Will this be Drew McIntyre's night after what we saw last night? Granted, we talked about this match earlier in the week, but let's talk about it now after what we saw last night with Braun Strowman becoming the new Universal Champion and that Boneyard matchup. David, what do you say?
Well, I mean, I'm going to have to go off of by what we saw on that special about Drew McIntyre, because the way they framed it, it's like everything he went through, his entire journey, his story, the ups and downs. Either you're going to be like sympathetic, like, oh my God, he really has to do this, and then he wins and all the big, pop and pyro and fireworks for him, or sparklers. Or if he loses, man, that guy has just had the worst luck. So it's like they framed it where no matter what happens, you're still going to have sympathy or joy for Drew McIntyre.
Either way they win?
Yes, because, again, everything was going his way until this entire pandemic happened. Mm-hmm. So now it's like it changed the dynamic of the whole match for him. So if he loses, you can always say, hey, everything was turned upside down. But if he wins, it's a great story. I honestly feel that with this match, the best business is to have a non-finish. Neither guy wins, neither guy loses. It's a draw, not a time limit draw. It can be a count out or whatever it can be. And then have the rematch in front of the crowd. Because if you're going to go in a direction with someone like Drew McIntyre, you want to have an audience behind him to definitely put the exclamation mark on his new reign. But for him to win, and then the pictures you see all over going forward is just him in an empty warehouse. I've seen some really terrible indie shows where guys have won belts and like, man, he's not a draw. There's nobody there. So they definitely need to hold off on this. Everyone says postpone it. Let's postpone the main event.
By having a non-finish in the main event.
Absolutely.
Andrew, what do you say?
Yeah, I think if you have paid attention to where the WWE goes before WrestleMania, they hit New York, they hit Pittsburgh, they hit Boston. They do these cities year after year after year, and they're gauging fan interest in who the main event participants are. Drew McIntyre was, from everything that I could tell on TV before everything happened, was getting pretty good reactions, and I think that they want to see what type of reaction Drew is going to get when he won the WWE Championship. So I do believe that this match will either have a retain by Brock or we're going to get a non-finish like Dave said. I think it's the smartest thing to do. Let's see how the crowd reacts when Drew wins the title. Let's see if he's our new superstar going forward for the next year or 2 years. And let's hold off on this for a little bit until we can get people in a building to get that pop and the fireworks and the pictures that everybody wants.
Both of you say something that's along the same sentiments of what our user on YouTube, All Elite Feed, has said. And we'll share that with you now. Does it make more sense to pull the trigger on McIntyre now or wait until maybe SummerSlam to switch the title then for the much needed reaction?
You could even do it on the very first Raw back in an arena on television as a way to bring all the fans back and reintroduce the Raw brand to everyone that has tuned out for the last few weeks.
The good thing is they have options. There are options. We'll see what happens. Now, you didn't think Braun Strowman would get the win tonight, but I think it's last night. But I think it's valid that you didn't. It wasn't that feel-good moment. They had not built that up. In fact, most people had forgotten they wanted Braun Strowman to be champion. So You didn't lose on that big moment there. But you may be losing indeed on a big moment with Drew McIntyre if you do it tonight on the taped show.
Absolutely. And you can't do that because Drew is the guy going forward.
That's true.
Thank
the
you.
Other guy. The guy with the full head of hair, not this one. And
to further your point, yes. I mean, you can't the Strowman thing. He's going to lose the title to Roman Reigns anyway at SummerSlam or wherever we see him, right? So it really didn't matter. I think you're spot on with this. I think you need to see if Drew's going to be the man going forward.
There you have it. See, he agrees. Finally, he agrees on something. I say.
You're just a
WrestleMania
Bret Hart.
36 Part 2 is tonight live on Fight TV, live on the WWE Network. And we want to hear your thoughts of WrestleMania. We're going to be live with you when the show goes off the air tonight. Currently planned for 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, 9 o'clock Central. We'll be live with reaction. And, wow, what a show we had last night talking about WrestleMania. I'm deeply intrigued by the Firefly Fun House match. But outside of that match, because I think we would all agree that that's probably the one we're most looking forward to, what other match are we looking most forward to at WrestleMania tonight, David Hero?
For me, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte, I think, is going to be great. It's going to be way better than what we saw with Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch last night.
Andrew?
What was that? I'm going to go with Edge and Randy Orton, but I just want to say to everybody, do yourselves a favor. Enjoy what these people are putting out, these superstars are putting out for you. Don't nitpick this. They're given a situation. Sit back and enjoy. They're trying to entertain everybody else who's sitting at home doing absolutely nothing anyway. So just take it easy and enjoy WrestleMania, but Edge and Randy Orton for sure.
That's a great point. Edge and Randy Orton is Andrew's thought. You can follow Andrew on Twitter. That's at Tiger Drew. At Tiger Drew on Twitter. And interact with him as well. David,
Yes.
your thoughts tonight. Which match are you most looking forward to other than the Firehouse? You know, I can't never
You know
say
what?
it right.
There's actually 4 matches I want to see.
4.
There's 4.
Four.
I want to see Brock and I want to see McIntyre. I want to see Edge and Randy Orton. I want to see the Firefly Funhouse match, and I want to see Rhea and Charlotte. And who would have thought 5 years ago I would say
You
I
hated
want to see
Charlotte.
No, I
You
didn't
hated
hate Charlotte. I
Charlotte.
just didn't get the appeal.
She was never going to be nothing. She was never going to be. I endorsed her. You hated her.
You took
Why
her-
is it that everybody
you took
I
her
endorse
second
you
in the
hate?
draft.
You hate Charlotte. You hate
I don't
Sami
hate
Zayn.
Charlotte.
You hate Ricochet, who I haven't not yet endorsed. You hate Cody. Why do you
He hates
hate
Bret
all
Hart.
these people
I don't
endorse?
hate anybody. I may dislike. I
Why
don't
do you
hate,
dislike all the people I endorse? Because I
Because-
just know talent better than
Because
you
you
do.
endorse them and it's obnoxious.
You hate people that
That
can
they
actually
win?
work.
I hate people that can work. Hulk Hogan, the greatest worker of all time.
He was
Best
never
match of
endorsed.
WrestleMania.
It was before my time.
Charlotte is not. Why did you not like Charlotte in the beginning? I mean, she
Because
could work.
at the time, she was getting the Rocky Maivia treatment. She was being just jammed down everyone's throat.
She deserved it.
And she was being given way too much at that time.
And you don't see good talent.
Now it's well deserved. But she overshadowed
It takes a lot for you to
everybody.
admit how wrong you were.
I was mistaken. I wasn't wrong. Big difference.
Andrew, thank you for joining us live. We'll see you again tomorrow night on PrimeTime Live. And for everybody else, thank you for joining us and interacting with us socially. We are just under 1 hour from the WWE pre-show of WrestleMania 32. We're going to see Natalya versus Liv Morgan on that broadcast and a plethora of other matches. You know, tonight was going to be the WrestleMania.
Oh,
as
you know what?
started
Hold
the show,
on. Pump
David.
the brakes. There's one more match I do want to see. Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley. Both guys need a big victory tonight. I don't know which one is going to get it, though.
You know, I didn't buy into that until I saw the graphic yesterday, I think, on the pre-show. I said, wait a minute, wow, that feels big. I like it. But WrestleMania, the pre-show, starts in just a little while on Fight TV. And also WrestleMania, the big show. Tonight was to be the night of WrestleMania, so there could be some credence to the fact that maybe it will go a little longer. Maybe it is a more stacked show because people were already conditioned to tune into tonight for WrestleMania anyways. So let's prepare to watch the one fan that will be in the Performance Center tonight.
Yeah, above the ring.
And let's enjoy the show from our homes and feedback. Provide feedback as to your thoughts of the show when we are live right here on all the same channels, including Fight TV, after WrestleMania. For Andrew Baydala, for that one, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for joining us here live for the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Live, Part 4 of our pre-show for WrestleMania 36. We'll see you for reaction when WrestleMania ends.